Hi, it's Liz from Daycare Teaching Tools. So I'm around my 3-month mark and I wanted to talk to you about 5 different things that I have learned in my personal experience in the last 3 months. So the first thing is that I got sick quite a bit within the first 3 months. So right now I'm actually currently sick. I started in the pandemic, and my first, I think 2 or 3 times I got sick, it wasn't COVID. I have COVID now, but my first 2 or 3 times it was just a cough. I got a fever a little bit, but I had a cough that would not go away. And I considered myself pretty healthy and having a good immune system before I started. And just chatting with coworkers, they all kind of said, you know, within the first year you get sick quite often because you're just exposed to a lot more germs than you were before. And I saw this like meme like, oh, I thought it was healthy until a kid sneezed in my eyeball, you know, that type of thing. So for me, I got sick quite often with this, and it's kind of very frustrating because I'm all like eager, ready out of school, and then I was like first couple weeks and then I got sick and I was like, oh, my energy level was really good, but I just had this cough that wouldn't go away. And so it's very frustrating, I find. Another thing is lice. Lice is real. So you know, it doesn't happen in the dirtiest of places. It's just kids go to school, kids have siblings that go to school, and they're close contact, and it has nothing to do with, you know, you being clean or anything like that. Like, just anybody can get it. So always having your hair up, you know, I constantly now think about that and have a little bit of a like self-check all the time, even though my head is not close to theirs and I consciously make sure of that. But it is something that you have to think about, having your hair up, or just, you know, dealing with the repercussions if you have your hair down. So my number 2 is high turnover. So when I got into this field of early childhood education, I heard that it was a very high turnover. So I believe in BC, which is where I am in Canada, the high turnover rate is lasting about 5 years. So people last 5 years within this career and they move something on to something different. So this could be, you know, burnout, just because it's a very interesting, weird field to get into and how it's set up and laid out. So some of the things that I have noticed is, like, you know, you really need to find great coworkers, and that's harder than it sounds. I lucked out and I have some really great coworkers. So finding those values, right, within the same coworkers so you're nice and cohesive. Another thing is the ratio to kids. So right now, the ratio for an early childhood educator is 1 adult to 8 kids. So obviously if I had 8 kids, it's not good quality daycare or childcare, because how can you really effectively help 8 kids that need, you know, help? They're fine most of the time, but what happens if you have a high needs kid, right? Then you spend the majority of time with that high needs kid, and then your other kids are looking for a little bit of attention. So in some places, you know, the ratios are like that, 1 to 8. Most places really try to bring those high ratios down, because that's when you see a lot of the burnout. But some kids do need one-on-one support, and that is another huge thing, because I found out in different cities they do it different places. So sometimes if you have a high need kid, they have to go through, say, the government, and that's a lot of paperwork. And while you're doing that paperwork, you still have the high need kid in your group, but not having that support. So it could be a month, could be 2 months, just depending on the whole thing of having to have that high need kid within your group setting and trying to balance out the rest of the kids as well. So that's another thing where in other places they were like, oh, it's a high need kid, and they just hire somebody who can work one-on-one with that kid. So it really just depends on the place and the city and the process that they go through with that. So the other thing I saw with high turnover is how are the educators being supported? Do they have time to plan? Do they have time, to talk with coworkers and be like, okay, like what is our agenda with this situation? How are we going to problem solve and brainstorm and come together? So just how are the educators supported and having time to plan out certain things. So number 3 for me is definitely not overworking myself. I'm considered technically green, meaning that, I'm newly out of the field. Your first year, you're kind of just stumbling around, but you're very usually enthusiastic, within this new career. And you're trying to get your foot into different things. But that can spill over into your personal life, right? So you have your work and you try to do what you can at work, but then you're just like, oh, and I saw this kid do this thing and they're interested in this. A lot of the things I'm interested in it too, especially if it's nature and outdoors. I'm like, yeah, I can research that and figure that out. So I do know I need to, set time being like, okay, I'm going to do something completely different that's not related to my work and do something and do this for my work, and I'm only going to spend maybe half an hour outside of my work time doing it. So number 4 for me is I have started journaling. It doesn't have to be everyday thing for me, but it is a really great place for me to reflect, to talk to coworkers and just kind of get their take on the situation or how they interpret it or view it. Different philosophies that have come up that maybe I want to research a bit further into, different methods and modeling techniques, just so many different things that I've come to I started also doing gratitude. So, on some of those really hard days, and I'm just like, okay, what am I grateful for within this job? Grateful for amazing coworkers, if I need to tap out basically because of this child's behavior, that I'm able to switch, and that I'm supported that way. So those little things that just kind of like, okay, and it kind of refocuses me on like what I'm grateful for, what I have, and that I'm able to start brainstorming of different methods and techniques that I could be used in those situations. I think because there is so many like online techniques as well, just being able to put that in there and come back to reflect on those to see if they work, see if they didn't work, maybe what the outcome was, and something to learn on for next time. So my number 5 thing I have learned is just the continuous learning is pretty crazy. You get kind of the foundation sort of in school, but I think because you're dealing with one-on-one kids or just kids that maybe have behavioral behaviors, that you're kind of continuously brainstorming, or if they have neurological disorders or something, that you're continuously brainstorming and seeing how you can best support the kids. For me, I really love it and enjoy it. When I was at one of my practicums, there was one teacher and, she said, well, it's crazy. You go to school, you do all these like activities, all this paperwork, and you do all this planning, and then after you can graduate, and then you don't really have to do anything if, you don't want to. And I could kind of see and it reflected in her work where she would just show up, kind of manage some kids, and then go home and you'd get a paycheck. And I could see that's, in any job, you see people do that. To me, it irked me because I was like, oh, like these are kids, like, and you have the resources to plan and prep, and you could do all these things, but you could also just show up, manage kids, and then leave, right? For me, it's more like, how can I better create a better environment or use kinder or more focused words to help better support these kids, right? And so that's my continuous thinking, is that even the words that I say, the words that instructions that I'm giving, how can I focus on and be better effectively portraying the message that I want us to say, so that they're able to feel supported or feel like they've been given a certain direction. So who knows what's going to be at the 6-month mark, but that's around the 3-month mark of working and what's been happening. But I'm very, very grateful to my coworkers and online things as well, because just searching for different things has been really helpful in different techniques and different perspectives that people have. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will chat with you later. Bye!